Andre Ward, how are you doing?
How are you, sir?
I am very well indeed. How are you?
Good, man. I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
6 years retired, 7 years retired from the sport, and now you've even retired from commentating for now.
For now, yeah.
For now. Okay, I'm going to get going. I've read your book. I read it about 6 weeks ago, or whenever they sent it to me, and I've just skimmed over it again. I remembered the things that stuck out to me that I never knew about you, and I've known you a long time and covered a lot of your career. I'm going to start
Right.
with this. It was a very unusual title for me. Killing the Image, Faith, Fighting, and Forgiveness. And I'm going to get into those with you, and I know why. But why Killing the Image?
Um, this, and I've said this many times talking about this book, sometimes the inspiration for things will come in abstract ways or just roundabout ways. And it came from a conversation with my pastor and me telling him that some of the young guys that I was mentoring, sometimes when I tell them I get it, I've been there, they're looking at me as if I haven't. And he said, well, Dre, you got to kill the image. In other words, you got to be willing to share parts of your story that you haven't shared.
Mm.
And in essence, who you are is real, but it's not who you've always been. So you sharing this may kill the image that some people have that he's never done anything, he's never been through anything, and he's just this guy. No, I'm that guy, but I'm also I used to be this guy as well.
Because I've always known that your dad was a bit. He was Irish. Your dad wasn't he, Duke?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've Irish extraction. Frank,
Irish American. Yeah.
yeah, Irish American. Yeah, Irish American, or a plastic paddy as they call them. But
Yeah.
no, an Irish American, a big guy. We spoke because and I thank you for this. It's a privilege for me to have been in your documentary about your life, and also, even more than that, to have gone to your favourite diner and sat there with you for an hour and a half,
Yeah.
chewing cud about life just outside Oakland. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was a day I'll never forget, and a photograph together I will never forget, because you were completely different and completely relaxed from the guy that I always knew in fight week or I always knew in fights. And I remember being fascinated by that. Dad was mum was an African American. Dad was an Irish American, big guy, 220 pounds, 6'2", and reading your book, and I didn't know this. He suffered an invert kind of racism because he was with two black boys as their father. And you said he got into lots of fights. And what's this white dude doing with these little black kids? And it kind of, I got the impression in the book that that was the beginning of someone, even though dad, I'll go into it in a minute, dad knew how to fight for his rights, you know? And he would not be
Yeah.
pushed down.
That's just not how my father was built. That's not how he was raised. He's a very stand up man. He's a man's man, very blue collar, and he's very much about what's right and wrong. And obviously, through detailed in the book, he wasn't a man without struggle, a man without problems. He wasn't a perfect man, but he cared about what was right and what was wrong. And his father, my grandfather, used to always say, "Right is right, wrong is wrong." So for my dad to be a white male uh, who happened to have two children with two black men. He has mixed race children. Obviously, he just didn't appreciate anybody staring, commenting.
Yeah.
He just wouldn't stand for it. And um, I got a lot of my dad in me, but I'm glad I have a lot more self control. Or we may have been reading a lot more different headlines about me throughout my career and even after I retired, because my dad had a quick fuse, and he could fight. He was not a bully, but he did not appreciate anybody trying to press in on his space.
You thank both mum and dad in the book, your mum Madeline as well, and on in early in the book, you mention at 18 on a cocktail of this is again we don't know about. You like to say killing the image, cocktail of weed, alcohol, and ecstasy. You're lying there with the palpitations. We've all been there. We've all been there, thinking, "Am I fucking dying tonight?" And you don't know it's going to wear
Yeah.
off. Yeah, but you but God spoke to you in that moment, yeah, and it led to Olympic gold, world champs, Hall of Fame, as you say, first ballot. But I think it also led, and this relates to killing the image, it led to your reputation and the amount of respect you have in our industry and beyond. Is that fair?
Yeah. You know, I believe so. That that was, man, that was the catalyst to the change that I experienced, and fortunately never went back to that life. Moment I didn't feel God speaking to me. I was having a conversation with Him and asking for help and mercy and forgiveness in that moment, because I can't speak for anybody else, but I knew that I was running from God, and people hear people say that. And what that means for me is that the idea of God, like, I knew He existed, I believed that much, but I was angry at Him. I was frustrated with Him. Things were not right in my life, and I blamed Him for all of it. And I didn't take any responsibility for myself. I didn't accept the fact that, my dad didn't always live the best life, and that led to an early demise. I didn't look at those things um, in an objective way. I just looked at God and sort of used those things as excuses to use, drink, and really even run from boxing. At that time, I wasn't trying to box, even though I still was in it. I had given up a childhood up to that point, and I just wanted to be normal. And wanting to be normal led me to that place on that bed where I thought my life was over. And I think it really was. I'm not sure that if I didn't look up and pray that I would have been able to survive that. But it was almost, it wasn't almost, it was an agreement with me and God. We had a contract at that point where I vowed to never go back if He gave me another opportunity. And I'm grateful, man, that I haven't gone back to that life. And it's interesting because people see the aftermath of that, like me not going to clubs, or, not really wanting to be around liquor. Now, I'm not the type of person where it's like, if I smell liquor, I'm going to start drinking. But I'm in environments at times where I'm around it and it's fine. Like, I don't, I can compartmentalize and not be a part of it. But then there's times when I will excuse myself depending on how I feel. But it's interesting to see people sort of look at me and just, I can tell they're trying to read me. They're trying to figure me out. But I hope that by reading the book, and this was the whole goal, you gain some understanding. I'm not necessarily trying to win over fans. What I'm trying to do is put my story out there for anybody that can pull something from it. And even my harshest critic can say, I still don't, necessarily align with the guy, but I understand him a little bit better now.
In the book, you're 10, you're watching George Foreman and Michael Moorer with your dad, and he's a huge George Foreman fan. And you both celebrate madly when Foreman becomes the oldest heavyweight champion in history at 46 plus. And was that a special moment for you, that you felt, yeah, this is for me, this stuff, this is the stuff of my dreams?
That out. No, sorry about that, brother. Hopefully you guys
No
can
worries,
that
no
out.
worries. I just paused. It's good.
Yeah, so the title of the chapter that you just mentioned about George Foreman, Michael Moore, Big George comes back. Just an epic moment for the sport, and for me, it was an epic moment. The title of that chapter is "A Champion Is Born."
Yeah,
I just didn't know it yet. There was something about the moment. There was something about the electricity in the crowd. There was something about George Foreman being this huge underdog. And I didn't understand everything about the sport at that time, but I did know that Michael Moore was younger. I did know he was the champion. And I knew that George Foreman looked like my grandfather, right? He didn't look like, some chiseled specimen of a fighter, but he had something about him. And the way he was able to fight back and claw back, man, it was powerful. And I detail Gil Clancy, one of the commentators at that time, Jim Lampley at that time, screaming, Big George did it. He did it. Like, all of it, the whole spectacle, and my father's reaction. Something was born and lit in me that day, and I wondered, what would it be like if I was in that arena? What if I was in a battle like that, and could I be a champion as well?
Well, let me ask you about that then. obviously you're 39 now. You retired at 32, 33, which we all felt was too early.
Yeah.
32 and 0, 32 wins. You'd won the gold medal in Athens before that, of course, in 2004. So it'd been a long and decorated career. Well, weirdly, 2017 seems like a long time ago now. I don't know why, but it does. I don't know if because we've had cataclysmic things happen in the world, but it does feel like a long time ago. When you left the sport, two fantastic fights against Sergei Kovalev, and I was lucky enough to be ringside for both of them, very close to the action, interviewing you both. You say, I have to be intentional about my retirement. You're sitting there now, I'm sure, having the itch some days when you wake up, thinking, "Oh, I want to get down there. Where's Verge? Where's Verge? Let's get Dre and Verge back together." That's a fascinating thing to write, that you have to be intentional about your retirement.
I mean, fighters either not retiring on time, and that's obviously a moving target. What's on time, or retiring in a respectable time frame and not coming back is very, very, very rare, and it's rare for a reason.
But even though you want to come back, even though you have that itch you want to scratch off.
Yeah, like to retire and stay gone for over 20 years plus, some of us, to be a certain way, to do a certain thing. And then all of a sudden, and it is all of a sudden, you make a decision, either the sport pushes you out or you make a decision, very few of us, to say, I'm done, I'm walking away. And nobody talks about it. I believe I'm gonna write a book about this one day, because I already have it. My experiences over the last 7 years, and it's not just for fighters, it's not just for athletes, it's for any individual who has done something for an extended period of time. What do you do when it's all said and done? How do you manage those emotions and feelings? What do you do on the days when you feel the itch? And of course, there's days where I'm glad I'm not in the sport anymore. I'm glad I don't have a demand on my time to be in someone's gym. But what about the days when you do feel that? What about the days when you are at a fight and you're drifting off, wondering about walking through that tunnel? Nobody talks about these things. And I was fortunate to, at a very, very young age, to start asking questions. And I talk about this in a book where I'm asking Verge and my dad, man, why did this guy have money and then all of a sudden he didn't? Verge used to, hey, baby, it's always been that way, but you're going to be different. This was very, very young, before I even knew what he was talking about. I started looking at the Roy Jones as my favorite fighter ever. And I'm looking at things he did right and things he said he was going to do. And then, as his career went on, man, he wasn't able to fully do it the way he wanted to. I empathize with that. I don't wag my finger at Roy. I understand that, man, something bad happened and he's trying to recover over the last 10 years what he lost. That's a cautionary tale for me. I'm looking at Bernard Hopkins, late start, but went first from nothing, had the peak financial. Everybody loves them and party, and they got the gold chains, and they got all the stuff, but they don't finish with anything. Mentality that I apply to the sport, when I have an opponent, I'm studying, I'm dissecting, and I'm coming up with a game plan, and now I have the pressure to go execute. That's the same thing retirement was. Retirement is the biggest opponent that I've ever faced in the sport of boxing.
When was the last time then you sat there and thought about the grease paint, the smell of the gym, the walking down the tunnel to the ring? When was the
last week ago?
Time? There you go.
A week ago.
And were you thinking, yeah, do you know what? Ngannou's fighting Joshua. I could have fought Joshua.
Yeah, all the time. Like, the fire doesn't turn off. See, it's one thing if the sport was beaten out of you. You've had 4 or 5 beatings back to back, and it's like, man, listen, I get the itch, but I can barely walk straight. That's not my story. So it's even harder for someone like me who physically has it. Yeah, I got some injuries and I got some things I got to deal with, but in my mind, there's always a way.
You famously said, I'm going to ask 2 British opponents, so I've been fascinated. Joe Calzaghe, you and Joe Calzaghe. That's a fight we'd love to have seen.
Yes. I wish I would have got it. Just a little bit ahead of my time.
You've even admitted that he's one of those guys you watch and thought, I got to be absolutely on my A game because I might have lost that on points.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, just the punch count with Joe Calzaghe. Great shape. Trained hard. You know, you have to account for the volume of punches that he throws, and even punches that aren't landing, they may be scoring points in the eyes of the judges. So he's always looking like he's active even when he's not doing anything. And you got to be a sharpshooter, right? Like Floyd was a master at it. Bernard in his prime was a master at it, taking the punch count of a guy who likes to throw a lot of punches. And the majority of the way you do that is with your feet. You dictate the range. Well, you let your punches go, Joe, in this range. When you're X amount close to an opponent, I'm not going to give you that as often as you want it. And then when you're thinking and trying to get in position, I need to be hitting you scoring points. Easier said than done. Obviously, just like I'm sure Joe feels like he would have beat me, I feel like I would have found a way, no doubt about that. But a difficult fight. You know, and you saw Bernard do it in spots with Joe Calzaghe. He just didn't have the youth and the wherewithal and the extra gas in the tank to keep it up.
Two sly foxes there in lots of ways at the peak of their powers. Was it serious, the prospect of you ever fighting Anthony Joshua?
It was something that was talked about off and on as my career was winding down, but it was, if I would have continued fighting, absolutely. No doubt about it. Like, you see it. If you go watch my post-fight press conference, Kovalev 2, Verge mentioned it. And we hadn't talked about it in a while, you know, leading up to that fight. Everything was Kovalev for the past year and a half. So he mentioned it. And there was literally nothing left for me to do at 175 pounds. Adonis Stevenson, at that time, I don't believe deserved a shot because he, you know, he did sort of what the, you know, some of those guys on that side of the fence would do. They pick and choose who they want to fight. They make good money fighting C-level, B-minus guys. And he was not eager to fight Kovalev. There's no way me coming from a lower weight class, 168 pounds, that I should have jumped the line and been more eager to fight Sergey Kovalev than Adonis Stevenson. Then I do the heavy lifting, and Adonis is like, yeah, let's do a super fight. No, we're not going to do that. I'm going to put my business hat on. I just fought the biggest, baddest man, biggest name in the division. I'm not going backwards. So there was nothing left at 75. If I stayed around, it was going to be cruiserweight to try to target Tony Bellew. Tony was not going to turn down a fight. I know he would have took the fight. And once I felt that weight, that 200 pounds, and you know, got my feet under me, so to speak, with that fight in one training camp, we were going for Anthony Joshua. Now, if he would have took it serious, I don't know, but that's what we were gunning for.
I think you were heavy. Were you heavyweight or light heavyweight champion at the Olympics? Was it heavyweight?
Light heavy.
It was
175.
It was 175. Yeah.
But that's what people don't understand. I've seen casuals sort of react to that comment, and this is no disrespect to Anthony Joshua, but I just feel the way I feel about it.
Yeah.
I've never had problems with a bigger man, ever. My brother, who I talk about in the book, I believe my brother had more talent and skill and ability than me, just didn't love it like I loved it. So I put in more work and I eventually passed him up. But he was a Tommy Hearns type, very, very rangy, devastating right hand, always under his feet, ready. If you make a mistake, he's going to make you pay. And I've also been a middleweight facing heavyweights. I've been a middleweight facing light heavy. I've never had problems with taller, more physically bigger men in the boxing. In fact, I welcome that. What's more challenging is a skillful fighter, a guy who makes me think the way I make him think. A high-level chess match is more concerning to me than some guy that's got, okay, what else do you have? So if you stand in the line of Anthony Joshua's straight right hand as a smaller man, even as a bigger man, you got problems. There's no doubt about that. There are things that I would have had to figure out, overcome. But at that stage in my career, there is no light heavyweight. I've conquered 68. I've conquered 75. I'm going to cruiserweight. If I'm successful in that fight against Tony Bellew, which I believe I am, I'm going to the mountaintop. And if we have a rematch clause, we'll do that, and then I'm done. I don't see a problem with me fighting and beating Anthony Joshua because I would have worn him down, Garrett. I'm not standing there for you to hit me with the big hand. And if you did land, I believe I would have took the right hand. But I'm not trying to be bigger than you. I'm not trying to go mass for mass. That'll never happen. You're physically bigger stature than me. But man, bro, listen, I was going to find a way. And I think it would have been a lot easier than people realized.
We're going to get back on track. What do you think of Fury and Joshua fighting in Nagano? Even though I've got my tuppence worth, he's a lot better than they're giving him credit for. Nagano.
He's a lot better than I thought he was.
Yeah, yeah.
My opinion on them fighting them, I love it. Listen, it's too many times in the sport of boxing, guys have been fighting tough fights and not getting compensated for far too long. If you can find a niche, these guys have fought plenty of fights, taken plenty of punches. We need another tough fight. We'll get the tough fight, but if they have an interim fight like that, something fun in the Middle East or wherever they may hold it, and they can make tens of millions, man, go get your money, have fun, enjoy it, and then get back on track after the fight. So it's just fans and media sometimes are never satisfied, Gary. These guys are not robots. They are thinkers and more business savvy than they've ever been. If there's an opportunity to get a bag, if there's an opportunity to, Floyd Mayweather made his biggest payday against a non-boxer. Go figure that.
240 million biggest payday.
Come on, man. Late in his career. Like, the career was over and he came back to take it.
50th fight, yeah.
Come on, brother. Like, nah, you got to get that bag. If there's a bag there, go get it, man. Go have fun, go get that bag.
I've 3 or 4 times I've written about your style as a boxer. It's very hard to describe Andre Ward's style because he tends to mirror his opponents and then pick them apart. Is that fair?
Yeah, I'm at times I'm doing that, and at other times I'm what the opponent doesn't want me to be. Oh, you want to stay outside? We're gonna go inside. Oh, you're pretty good inside, so I'm gonna pick my spots inside, but I'm gonna make you use your feet and come to me, or I'm gonna turn you. There's so much going on in my brain.
A lot that it's like that you've got kind of very like water style, you know.
I'm formless. I'm yeah, what exactly. I need to do.
Exactly.
There's not a person on the planet that can accurately pinpoint my style. There is no name, there is no title for the style that I used. I don't even have one.
Have you got a favorite? There are obvious fights that might be your favorite in that 32 fight career and all those victories. Is there a favorite fight in there that you can pick out for us, or a favorite moment?
Man, I got a few. I got a few. The Edison Miranda fight was very, very special for me. My first time fighting at home, sort of my first big bill, my sink or swim moment. And I had to prove to myself that I can deal with a puncher like that guy that did not care about my reputation. In fact, he resented my reputation, and he was going to be there all night long. And if I wasn't on point, he would have knocked me out. So that was special in and of itself. Obviously, Kessler was a beautiful moment because, again, I had to up my game and prove
you out-roughed him
again with the.
You out-roughed him that night.
Yeah, but I also out-thought him too.
Your head was your third. If I can be rude, your head was your third fist that night.
You think so?
You were you were tougher in that fight, harder in that fight than we've ever seen.
I think people, especially from looking through the European lens, they look at physical fighting like it's dirty. It's like, do something.
Well, you mentioned dirty, but no, I admired you for it. Many people admired you for that performance.
And I've heard that, and it's interesting to me, and I'll get back to your question in just a second, that every big win that I've ever had in my career, there was always something that was said. Kessler, it's an excuse. Dawson, it was an excuse. Frache, it was an excuse. Kovalev twice, it was an excuse. Abraham, it was like, it's always something. But that comes with the territory with a guy like me who's won as much as he's won, who carries himself.
Carry on, Dre, who's won so much. Yeah, who's won so much. Do carry on.
Yeah, everybody's not happy for all your winning. You got many people that want to see you lose, and they want to find reasons why you won. It comes with the territory. I gotta disagree with you on the Kessler take. Man, he got hit with a lot of leather that night, man. And there's gonna be incidental contact and stuff's gonna happen. But you gotta realize too, I'm a young pup. And that's why I really love that moment in fight too, because I had to carry my hometown on my back. Title against a dude like that, nobody really wanted to fight Kessler. He wasn't. Then nobody in that tournament was raising their hand to fight him first, because you got to remember where he was at that time.
Yeah.
People, they look at when they assess the history, they look at where a fighter currently ended and where they're at now. Like, oh, he wasn't. No, 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 no. You have to remember where he was at that time. 42-1 with 30 some odd knockouts. Like only Joe Calzaghe had an answer for Mikkel Kessler. So that was a favorite night of mine.
And it took five
Obviously,
rounds.
Carl
It
Froch
took
just
five rounds for Calzaghe to work on him. It took 5 rounds for Calzaghe to turn that fight around. He's getting beaten
yes.
up. Yeah.
Kessler's the type of fighter where he'll be as good as you allow him to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if I let him get in his rhythm and started bouncing and started getting comfortable, it may have been a different outcome. So me getting the monkey off my back on if I was a bust or not, if I was championship material, that was a huge night for me. Always a memorial that I remember. Froch, obviously the UK-US rivalry, and just shutting Carl Froch up and being a thorn in his side since that fight has been beautiful. I love it. He's still not happy. He still got reasons why. I love it. So that was a special moment. Dalton was a special moment as well, just coming off of the Super Six and really applying my business acumen, right? Like everybody assumed that you need to go fight Usyk Bute. Wait a second, let me put my thinking cap on. Everybody else risked being in this tournament except him. Why should he get rewarded with the best fighter in the tournament as he sat on the sidelines and watched? No, this is what we'll do. Froch, you go beat beat Usyk Bute. Okay, you go beat him, give you an opportunity to resurrect your career, but we'll see if Lucian deserved to be in the tournament by how that fight turns out. And he showed that he wasn't, I don't say he didn't deserve to be in there. He should have been in there, but he showed that the guy that I beat, he couldn't beat that guy. So I did the right thing by jumping a weight class. Well, I stayed in my weight class, but jumping a weight class in terms of my opponent and facing the lineal light heavyweight champion of the world, Chad Dawson. So that had a whole special.
Yep.
I'm not sure if that's you or me, man. We've had a lot of issues out here, man, with our Wi-Fi.
No, it's all good. No, it's probably you, but you carry on. Talking about Chad Dawson there.
Just a special moment, man. I think that's one of the highlights that the fans had of my career. They talk a lot about just that moment, and because again, it's a situation where I need to be right. I got to come with my A game, or this dude is gonna have a way. He just beat Bernard Hopkins twice. Like you can't convince him that Andre Ward can't beat him. I had to show him.
4 more questions before I lose you all together into the ether. Give me a quick answer on Fury and Usyk are about to fight. This is a guy that's come up the weight divisions to fight a very big heavyweight. What do you think happens when Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk meet? And would you have fought Tyson Fury?
Might be a little bit too much height.
Yeah, no, he's a big dude.
You know what I mean? Like, he's a big dude, and he's a very skillful fighter. So I believe I can beat anybody. And I don't just say that as just like, just a placeholder. Like, if that situation made sense and it's like, okay, this is what we're trending toward, I like my chances against anybody. I'm not going to, concede that point, but Tyson's a really big dude. And I don't think that fight would have the luster that an Anthony Joshua fight would, just given, Joshua's reputation, especially at that time and everything like that. Yeah. But in terms of his fight with Usyk, it's a very difficult fight to assess. I think that's a fight that Fury's supposed to win, because you have both can box, and Fury's skillful, but he's bigger. So he has the ability to keep Usyk on the end of his shots, not allow Usyk to do what he wants to do. And I like Usyk, right? But I also see a lot of redundancy in the style of Usyk. I think Usyk maybe looks a little bit more flashier than he actually is because he's facing bigger, slower men. But when you really look at Usyk, the left hand is the main thing you got to worry about. It's one arm, the left. He throws a straight to the head, a straight shot to the body, a looping shot, and he will throw the right hook and he flicks with the jab. But really, I need to attack your right side Usyk as a right-handed fighter. My left side, I need to abuse your left side and make you use that hand more than you ever had to, because you're not just going to beat me with one hand. You're just not going to do it. You need to use both hands tonight. I'm going to keep attacking the side that you don't use very much. I'm interested to see if Tyson Fury has picked that up and if he'll employ that. Now, if Tyson Fury comes into the fight, which, given the pictures that I've seen of him, he looks very, very lean and very, very fit. If he can be sort of the old Tyson with a little bit more movement, less stationary, and give Usyk a boxing style, an elusive style that he has to deal with, make him think, because thinkers don't always like to think. We like to think when you've got that style that I'm used to seeing, but when you think on the level that I think, it's draining. It's just as draining for a boxer to face a boxer. It's more draining for a boxer to face a boxer than a boxer to face a puncher. So Tyson needs to go back, get that elusiveness. Don't think power, think skill, think speed. The power is there. You're the bigger man. You don't have to try to be the bigger man. There's times when he needs to be that most of the time, but then there's times you need to remind Usyk, I'm stronger. Let me grab you, walk you back, hit you on your shoulders. The question for Usyk is how does he get inside? Can he continually get inside? And can he beat Tyson Fury in a boxing match, toe-to-toe, face-to-face, given the height difference, given the reach difference? So this isn't a fight that's easily, you can't easily say who the winner's supposed to be. I'm leaning towards Fury, given the time that he spent in the sport, all that he's accomplished, and where he is in his career. He's supposed to win this fight. But he's not a favorite by a landslide by any means. This is anybody's fight, who shows up and who executes on the night.
Brilliant stuff. I'm going to ask you, there's two people who are seminal in the book, Virgil Hunter and your wife, Tiffany. Obviously, you've got 5 children with her. I've had the privilege of meeting her once during the Super 6 series. A beautiful woman she is. I think you had three sons were there with you that day as well. I think you've had 2 since, maybe. I certainly remember 3 young men with you that day. I can't think all 5 were there. It was in Atlantic City, of course. I'll ask about Tiffany first. You easily and openly and transparently display that Tiffany is there with your thinking for the last, well, you were teenage sweethearts. For the entire time, you are soulmates. And without her, perhaps you wouldn't have made all the right decisions, and she's allowed you to make your decisions as well.
I can't say enough how much having a great woman at home and stability at home leads to a great professional career in a sport like this. I never had to worry about my kids. My wife is not like, that's the right way to say it. My wife is very tough and thick-skinned, you know, but she's also a sweetheart.
She's tougher than you.
Not quite, but she's close. She can be at times. Depending on the subject, she can be at times. But she's just allowed me to go try to be great. And in the book, I detail how we met. For me, it was love at first sight, and I still feel the same and stronger about her as I did the day we met when we were 15 and 16 years old. That's a rarity, man. And man, she's my rib. She's my everything. And you hear people say that, but that's really my life partner, man. That's my girl. A lot of times, great women don't get the credit because they're not in the spotlight. I'm grateful my wife isn't yearning for the spotlight. She'll accept it, but she's not yearning for that. She just wants to be a great mother, a great woman of God, and a great wife. And, you know, she's got projects and stuff that she's into and things that she does. But I don't have the career that I had if I have trouble at home.
Yeah, I got all of that. You would not have had the career you've had without Tiffany at home.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. You need stability at home. And I've always had that throughout the course of my career, amateur and pro.
Finally, on Virgil, obviously in the gym, you've had Virgil the entire time. Now, I've been to that gym in Oakland many, many times, hidden away at the back of the industrial estate, down by the canal. He's told me loads of stories about the old black style, his family involved with the Black Panthers, music, Motown, Smokies. Even I'm going to say it, even marijuana in canal boats going down the river. You know, he's a great guy. I've always loved Virgil. It's always a privilege when he lets you into the gym and you know you're welcome to go and visit him. And I always did, because I was seeing a girl out that way for 3 years. So I was always in the area. Virgin Dre, you tell him last minute over the phone.
Yeah.
About the retirement. And as he says to you, they never got the last laugh. Just describe to me how that, again, I suppose you might even say the same thing you said about Tiffany. Without Verge, you might not have had the career you had.
I mean, before we get to the career, you know, I may not have gotten to that point if he wasn't there. You know, my dad died when I was 18 years old. Very, very pivotal point in my life where I'm trying to figure life out. I'm struggling. I'm in the streets. I'm dabbling with drugs and alcohol, and I'm really sick of the sport. I've given up the childhood to do it, and I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want the pressure. I don't want the expectations. I don't want to be looked at like an Olympic hopeful. I just want to be me, just a kid. And Verge came in when the most important person in my life was ripped away. I may not become the man that I became if he's not there at that point in time. We went from life coach to now boxing coach, where he's helping me in my battles in the ring, in training, in preparation. But God knew who to send me. You know, Virgil worked in the juvenile hall system here for the youth for 20 some odd years. He's had a gift. He has a gift to speak to young people. He's a visionary. And I wasn't the type of young man or fighter that needed someone to stand over me and bark at me. I didn't need the rah-rah guy. I just needed a guy who would give me the right message in the right amounts at the right time. And he always knew what to whisper in my ear that would get me charged up. He always knew what to whisper in my ear to challenge me. You guys got a glimpse of it in Kovalev 1 after the knockdown. I would get those type of pep talks, not that intense, obviously, but those kind of things all the time. Whether it was about the life I was living at that time, whether it was about, hey, man, we got to get ready this kind of way for preparation, even the business side of boxing. He's been there. If I don't have him, it's hard to believe I make it. If I don't have him, it's hard to believe that I've become what I've become. So I never take full credit for the success. I know that it takes a team, it takes a village. I'm grateful for my team and my village. And at least on the boxing side, man, we completed that chapter. That book is written, and I'm just on to bigger things, better things. And I say bigger and better, not that there's a true comparison, but just the fact that I have a life and I'm a productive citizen and I'm still giving back, helping people, making a living outside of a sport that many feel like you this is who you are. This is what you do. The fact that I can still do these things outside of the sport, it's a success in and of itself.
We've only got a couple of seconds left, but I'll just remind you of this. Your hero, George Foreman, at the beginning, he was away for 10 years preaching, and then he came back and he won the world heavyweight title. I'm not begging you to come back, but you never know. We're going to end this interview now. But it's great to speak to you, Dre, as always. Andre Wards, absolute classy gentleman, an amazing fighter who I had the privilege of covering. Thank you so much.
Garrett, thank you, brother. Anytime.
Cheers. Thank you so much, mate.
Talk soon.